Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. I think we are all set to get started. We have our panelists here, we have our author here, and we have our participants here. I'm sure few more would be joining as we proceed with the discussion. So, a very warm welcome to all the participants, or I must say, alumni relations professionals in the launching of Connect, Engage, Thrive, the art of alumni relations. So it's really exciting to have you all join us for this session today. So we have participants joining us from 8 different time zones. So it really reflects the passion and the intent among all of us to strengthen our respective alumni communities and support each other and encourage each other by exchanging ideas, thoughts. So this is exactly what this session and today's discussion is all about. So I'm sure some have woken up early, some are awake till late. I really hope we are able to really make it worth it for all of you. So we are going to have many interesting conversations and we are going to have a power-packed panel with us. So of course we'll have more detailed introductions as we proceed with the discussion. So now we'll be starting the session with a conversation with our author today, Kethi, and followed by which we would have a panel discussion to understand how alumni relations are evolving with time. And finally, we will head to the launch ceremony of our session. And then at any point of time, please feel free to share your doubts, queries with us. All you need to do is just raise your hand and we'll unmute you, just so that we are able to have a seamless transition among the speakers, among the participants, as and when you feel like speaking or sharing your thoughts. Meanwhile, it would be great if you all could have your cameras turned on so that we are able to, have a more interactive and more productive session. So with this, I think we are all set to begin. So connect, engage, thrive. For an alumni relations professional, these are not just words, right? These are these words largely reflect our intent of an alumni relations professional to connect with every alumnus of the university, engage them regularly, and help their alumni and university thrive together. But these three words also describe the journey of Kethi, our author today. So let's welcome Kethi Edersheim in this discussion, and let's have a quick conversation with her, about her journey to come up with this book, Connect, Engage, Thrive. So hello, Kethi. It's such a pleasure to have you share this special moment with all of us. The launch of your book, which summarizes your 20 years of experience in alumni relations. So I'd just like to hear from you. How do you feel?
Well, thank you, Kapil. It's great to see so many people here, and I am excited to have written the book. I have interacted with many of you or with your institutions over the last, and 20 may understate it, as the number of years. And what I found was that I was going through my career and raising my children and found that what was most important to me was the connections I made with people as I went through different phases of life. I will, in this particular case, single out Margie because she and I were college classmates. So we are alums together from way back then. We have some other Yaleys on the call, but not ones who I knew in my college years. And what I realized was that for so many people, connection is incredibly important. And we have lots of ways that we connect with people in the moment. Our children's school, the parents, their teachers, who we work with. But there aren't that many ways that engagement, specifically something that reflects who you are, is encouraged. And there are not that many ways that we can maintain connection through our lives. But our university, our alumni connection is a way that we can do that. And that support network and that continuity are so important really to everybody. And to that extent, while alumni have a lot to give back to the university or even your high school, whatever it might be, the institution has almost a responsibility to help the alumni have a more fulfilling life by having a committed alumni relations effort that brings people together. It's not always easy to do this, and so over my experience starting as a volunteer and then as a professional in the field, I found that there's a lot of ideas to share. Part of that is that alumni relations often isn't looked on as a profession in itself. People don't think about what are the specific skills needed or the experiences that add value for alumni relations management. And this is something that I could share based on my time as an alum who was not engaged, as a very active volunteer, and then as a professional. And from that came this book, largely also thanks to Koppel and Almashines for encouraging me to write a series of articles that became the basis for the book, while I also brought in other writing and rewrote and smoothed things over. A lot of it came from my work with that.
Right, right. That's awesome. So we have just been an enabler in this, but we would like to kind of put a disclaimer that it's the hard work of Kathy that has made this book a reality. So thank you for your making us a part of this journey altogether. And so while we were planning this session, while we were planning like how should we make it a productive discussion, so you suggested that it should be like a meeting kind of setting, then a webinar like setting where you wanted all of us to connect over a meet rather than it just being a session where we have a panel that shares their thoughts with all our participants. So why so? Like, what was your thought process in that?
Yeah, so alumni relations really is all about people connecting. And to me, a webinar setup just doesn't allow that at the same way as a meeting setup. So, as I say, many people here are friends, longtime friends. Ed Sevilla has joined us, and he's someone I've traveled around the world with, the same as with Cheyenne and so on. And that's, it really is about connecting and engaging with each other. And a webinar just doesn't allow it in the same way. So I opted to do this as a meeting setup because I think it's important, and we learn from each other. Right? There's nothing as important as learning from others. The one other quick thing is we have a lot of different institutions represented here in various ways, and context makes a big difference as well. So I think it's important, right, that we think about that. And this also allows people to share their context as well as their challenges or their inspirations.
Right. So, like, if you could share with our participants today, like, what can they expect from Connect, Engage, Thrive? Like, what could be the takeaways for them, or how Connect, Engage, Thrive can help them in their journey of alumni relations?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the reason that I wrote Connect, Engage, Thrive in a sense is partly the need to make alumni relations better understood. And so the book really touches on it in a few different ways. For starters, it talks about why alumni relations is important so that we as alumni relations professionals or even as volunteers can help institutions understand why they should be providing resources to alumni relations, the importance of the community that can be built through alumni relations. And so it starts with what I would call almost some of the theory, the ability to make the case for alumni relations internally as well as externally. Then it goes into some of the inspiration for working with volunteers. I'm very much a believer in calling on the resource and the enthusiasm and inspiration of volunteers. We all know that alumni relations offices are never going to be sufficiently staffed to do everything that a good alumni association should do. Plus, they don't have the same knowledge of the alumni body that the alumni bring themselves to their ideas. And then it gets into some of the practicalities, actually how to create a mentoring program. What are some specific event ideas? What are ways to improve events? So in a sense, it's a 3-tiered book that is intended to help on a variety of levels for those who are looking for small new ideas up to big ideas relating to alumni relations.
Right. Great, great. Now that makes me even more curious about the launch of the book so that I can go through its contents and, get to grasp everything that you have to offer. And so thank you so much for sharing such a heartwarming conversation and for joining or, sharing the journey with us. So now with this, I think we can move to the next segment with our panelists. So in order to launch the segment, we'll just get started with the same. Yeah, so with this, I think we have a great panel ahead. So I would like to welcome our panelists today. So with us, we have, I'm so excited like to have this amazing panel. So I had a privilege of listening to our panelists some time back. Some of the panelists I have been following over last 5 years, 10 years. I had a pleasure of working with some of our panelists today. So it's really wonderful to have all the panelists that they have been able to take their time out and join us today for this session. So today with us we have Dr. Gretchen Dobson. So Dr. Dobson has over 30 years of experience and she has spent about 6 years managing alumni relations. And Dr. Dobson has been helping various institutions and organizations to help them with their global engagement programs. And currently she works with Tetra Tech and leads their scholarship domain. We have Mr. Filippo Guarnini with us. Mr. Filippo brings a very diverse set of experiences. So he has PhD in gravitational physics and has been working on various research projects with Yale and Nordita in stochastic systems and climate change. Now, Mr. Filippo spends most of the time on Goldmark, which is the consulting company, and he teaches applied sciences and AI through various courses. Along with this, Mr. Filippo is also the founder of Alumni Association of Max Planck Institute. With us, we have Mrs. Lata Venkatachalam. So, Mrs. Lata has about 20 years of industry experience, 15 years of experience in building and managing communities, and 8 years of experience in managing alumni relations of leading institutions in India as a part of the leadership team. In her stint, she has been able to work on some great initiatives or pioneering initiatives with the respective alumni bodies, and she has been able to take the alumni relations to next level for the respective institutions. We also have with us Mr. Tanka Sharma. So Mr. Tanka started his career as a software engineer and worked with MNCs and startups in a range of roles like software development, pre-sales, and business development. And in his career, Mr. Tanka has worked with most prestigious B schools of India, and eventually he returned back to his alma mater, IIM Bangalore, as head of alumni relations. So on behalf of all the participants, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to our panelists today. So I think we are good to start with the discussion. So maybe Dr. Dobson, as we realize that your journey with alumni relations started in 2008. So would you like to share with us how alumni relations have evolved since then? Like it's been nearly 15 years. So what kind of transformation have you witnessed, and do you think alumni relations are evolving over a period of time?
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to support Kathy and this fantastic accomplishment. My journey of alumni relations actually starts about 50 years ago, because I grew up in a family of, I would say, die-hard, that's an American expression, but very passionate alumni. Both parents were school leaders, presidents of their classes, two different colleges in the Bay Area that came together and celebrates. My mother still celebrates her college reunion at 63 years. My father passed away, but was very proud to be a St. Mary's College rugby player and founder of the Rugby Alumni Association and Mentoring Program. So I grew up in this field. My sister is a former vice president of advancement for 30 years. And my journey really started as soon as I graduated in 1991, so many, many years ago, and got into the field full-time in 2002. So that journey, because I kind of grew up within the alumni circles and the friends that became godparents and the friends that became really an extended family to both parents. It was natural for me to, I think, as an active student on the college campus, to seek out ways to stay involved. And so as a member of the Boston College Alumni Association and Young Alumni Chair, and did lots of different activities because they were fun, because they were meaningful, because it was giving back to the city of Boston, because it was connecting with me and making great friends, and then having chances to really take that volunteer life into a professional life, as Kathy did, and moved over in 2002 to have the privilege of leading the Tufts University, their regional alumni program, which became a global alumni program over the course of 10 years that I was there. So from that, we learn best practice. We learn as much as we think we lead. I think leadership is all about listening and collaboration and the transformational processes that you have with others. And that positive impact is truly through inspiring others. And I think we do that kind of one group, one coalition, one affinity group at a time. When we were building our own kind of global brand as a university, we saw that there was so many different ways to get involved. It wasn't just the time, the talent, the treasure, but I would say back in the mid 2000s, it started to we started to look at ways to extend that brand through technology, and that's what has, I think, continued to do a very quick and effective and cost-effective way to bring people together. And we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years how important that was when we weren't able to be together in person. So that virtual connection is key. So the book is as I said in an email or a LinkedIn post yesterday, it's an updated approach to all the basic principles of why alumni is important. The why behind it, who's involved, and then more or less the how, and all those benefits of becoming involved. So the first book I wrote on alumni relations was published in 2011, and have since then written several more, and it's been wonderful to collaborate with Kathy as we take this topic of engagement and community involvement and affinity and really extend it across other global priorities that we feel that where there's an opportunity to really bring disparate groups together based on all sorts of reasons in our crazy world that we have today. But I'll stop there. And so a little bit about my journey. It's very personal, and I think that's why we continue to this work becomes important to us, because it's just who we are, part of who we are, and it's a thrill to be able to be part of the launch. So 2024 has become a much, much better world because of this new publication.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing those insights. Like, as I understand that the alumni relations have become or have a slight component of virtual relations now, whereas earlier individuals were all about creating value for each other. And over the time, the relations have grown into a more virtual world altogether. So I would request if Mrs. Lata, if you could share some of your thoughts on how you see alumni relations evolving over time, like how are they transforming with these so many technologies, digitization all over.
Yeah, thank you, Kapil, and it's a real privilege to be amongst such veterans of alumni relations. Because why I say so is because alumni relations in India itself is, I think, not more than 15 years old. In the even the premier institutes like the IITs and IIMs thought about very serious alumni relations and started doing it. It's about the oldest could be just about 15 years. So I think there is great evolvement. So when I hear you're talking about being in it for 20 years, 25 years, it's just fabulous. And we always know, like when we started in IIT Madras also, it was like we wanted to benchmark ourselves to Yale or Stanford. I said, like, no way, we are there, we are too young, so let's have our own kind of working. So I think right now what has happened, like I said, the Premier Institute started the thinking about alumni relations just about 15 years ago. The other institutes have just started maybe in the last 5 years. Yeah, and thanks to a lot of accreditation bodies which have made alumni relations as a mandatory feature in their as one of the points that they would get if they want to be accredited as the best institution. So now everybody is waking up for alumni relations. And when they see, when they read the news about IITs raising few crores of rupees as donations, is when the others are like, hey, we need to do so. And again, as part of the accreditation, they have said, like, you need to raise about just $500,000, and that itself they don't know. They kind of feel it's a big task, because the biggest challenge here has been, like, because this has not been in the concept, connecting with the alumni, there is no data. That's the biggest challenge. That is where the problem is. Yeah, the IIT alumni also created a Pan IIT, yes, which is again, the Pan IIT in US is much more active than the Pan IIT in India. So it's a long way to go for us, and there is a lot of learning. But the good thing is it's evolving, and every college right here now, initially it used to be only with the professional colleges. Right now, even the arts and the science colleges, schools have started alumni relations. Corporates have started thinking about it. Not just because initially when it started by the premier institutes was to look at it more as for donation purposes or to bring back the wealth. But I think in matter of time, it has changed to how the knowledge needs to be brought back. And, whether it's the mentoring or the career development. And now all the more where we see a huge trend is the entrepreneurship growing so fast in India. Every college has got an e-cell, which is an entrepreneurship cell or an incubation cell, and they all need the alumni to come and set up their shop there, or to come and mentor, or to invest. So this has become very, very important in all the institutes right now. But it's a big challenge, because and that's where I see technology is helping. And thanks to people like Kapil and others who have come into this market about 10 years ago and come up with very good technology, which is helping them collect the data, put the data somewhere, keep the communications, and keep them engaged and connected, because that's the first step that they needed. So again, there is a lot of, because here what happens is there is one alumni relations which is run by the institute, and there is another registered alumni association which is run by the alumni, right? So again, there are institutes which kind of don't know how to kind of really say, okay, now what's the role of an alumni relations office and what is alumni association? So how seamlessly, like, one has to deal with fundraising, the other has to be more on the fun and the engagement part of it. But unfortunately, right, because to get funds, they again get into engagement, and the association doesn't know how to make money for themselves. There is a huge crunch on all this. So the model in India is still evolving, I would say, except for the premier institutes which are doing well, where even whether the cash flow or how it needs to be done, or the volunteers coming to do it. There's a lot of passion with which they do it, which is what we've seen, and it's working well. But the overall scenario with the other private institutions, it's not like that. To put up a board or to put up a committee itself is a big challenge of 4 people. So that itself is becoming a challenge. So we hope books like this, programs like this will, we need to talk more about this subject, because it's a lot of knowledge which the college has imparted out there, right? And it's time they realize that they need to bring that back into the college and not let them go, because the students love meeting the alumni than their professors. And the alumni are also so connected more with the students, because they really want to tell them, guys, 4 years, 5 years that we are in college, we just have fun. Just go out. It's a different world, and we'll tell you what that world is. So, yeah, I hope that answers what you wanted.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the insightful pointers altogether. So, Mr. Tanka, if you could help us understand, like, how do you see the needs of alumni or alumni offices transforming in this digital age? Like, you have joined alumni relations in recent times. So, like, what are these some practices or initiatives, or what are some ways that you think are essential for any new alumni office or the evolving alumni offices?
Sure, thanks, Kapil. So, I will probably structure this on 2 parts. One is actually taking a cue from what Katie just typed on the chat box, right? That alumni have different interests at different life stages. So that pretty much across the years. So I have not been in the alumni office for a long time, but I have been with the institute for quite some time, and then of course been alums of different engineering and B schools as well, right? And that's for like 2-3 decades. Now, what hasn't changed is how the needs evolve as an alum goes through his or her own life stages. So it's very useful to kind of relate it loosely to the Maslow's hierarchy of law, where you see young alums kind of looking in the initial years to the alumni network also some sort of physiological fulfillment, in the sense of employment opportunities, need for connecting with fellow like-minded people, etc. And then it goes on more and more towards how you can give back and self actualization, as they call it. So that trajectory hasn't changed with years. That remains mostly constant. Now, when you have different alums at different stages of this trajectory, you will of course try to devise engagement points which cater to these needs, right? So the kind of things that you would talk to an alum who graduated 5 years back would be probably different from the kind of touch points that you want to create for someone who is, let's say, in their late 40s or 50s or 60s, right? That hasn't changed. What has changed is the way we communicate to the people, right? Connect with the people. And there you have to understand, we need to understand that in today's age, specifically with so many different kinds of input streams attacking a person, there is social media, there is mainstream media, then you have your own network, there's physical activity, social interaction, etc. There is only so much of mind space that you will get. So what would be the right channels to employ to do that, right? A classic example is if I were to kind of communicate with my alums 10 years back, I would have probably thought predominantly, okay, email, because your personal mailbox is fairly sacred. People track it regularly. What has happened over the years is, people have moved on from emails, and that has pretty much all personal mailboxes have kind of become flooded with junk. So very difficult to catch attention over a mail. Then we have moved on to WhatsApp and other kind of chat platforms. Even those are kind of getting crowded out. Then you have a third layer of applications like LinkedIn, for example, or personalized apps that you can build. And what should be your content strategy? What should be the design of your various engagement points over these platforms? Are they something different? And so on and so forth. I'll just probably end that with an example, which is that pre-COVID, for example, if we were to kind of engage alums in activities which required their time and inputs, not necessarily money, I'm not going there in that direction. Even then, it made it very mandatory if you really wanted to derive value out of those sessions for those people to come and deliver the session, etc. Now, in recent times, we have been as a B school conducting some programs for, let's say, the less skilled people in the workforce, or maybe rural women entrepreneurs and stuff like that, where we have sought alumni mentorship. And that mentorship now, with the digital adoption which we see across the strata or spectrum, the things like what we are doing right now over a Zoom session has become very, very possible. So new engagement points can also be brought in because of the different platforms that are evolving, and very important for us to change and evolve in those directions, basically.
Great. Thank you. I think we had some on-ground points from your the pointers that you shared, like came from direct from your experiences. So, Mr. Filippo, you have been on the both sides of the ecosystem as an alumnus, just like Mr. Utanka, and as a leader in alumni relations as well. So, how do you see the alumni bodies or alumni offices can adapt the practices to meet the expectations or needs of their alumni? Like, I'm sure there would be certain mismatch within the expectations. Like, alumni expect something different from their alumni office, and alumni offices might not be able to fulfill that, and alumni offices might expect something from their alumni, but alumni might not be able to fulfill that. So what kind of gaps do you see, and how do you think they can be filled in with?
Well, thanks for the question. I think, like, getting to some of the comments that were already done, it's like one thing that is very important is that every kind of like segment has different needs. So it's very important to actually get a conversation about what those needs are. With the conversation with the alumni, I think my feeling, my experience as a volunteer leader is that, like, while growing an alumni community, you normally try to have mostly physical meetings, because physical meetings are actually what are bringing the people together. But for example, like, physical meetings need resources, and normally not always the institution has the resources to actually support the alumni and in their meetings. Although not always those meetings are necessary, and it is also like very important, as Utanka was saying, to actually find what are the channels that try to help like the community grow. And this is something, for example, that I think the alumni can more or less do by themselves. And I think like leadership in alumni is extremely important, because the leaders of the different, like, for example, of the different regional groups are the one that really bring the volunteer groups to grow. But not always the leaders know how to manage those communities. So normally you may have like a hierarchy of like different leaders, and like, let's say, for example, like if you have like different regional groups, the leaders of the different regional groups may need to actually get together to share experience, to understand how to grow those communities, also because they do not always have experience about how to manage and how to actually grow those regional groups. So this experience, they may actually ask the alumni officers about what may be best practices, and practically they may work together with the alumni officers to try to use like the best communication channels to keep the momentum and having like the group growing. Although it may be also a bit complicated, like this is maybe something that can be quite interesting, is to understand what are the right channels, not to communicate with the alums, but actually for the alumni officers to communicate with the leaders. to try to understand how to define a balanced, something balanced about like resources and the needs of the leaders, and also like what the alumni officers can do. I don't know if it's answer.
Of course. That's an insightful, or say rather unbiased perspective from both the perspectives of an alumnus and as an alumni leader altogether. So I'd just like to open the floor if there are any questions, like if from our participants to the panelists today, and if or if they would like to share any comments on the discussion so far. So yeah, any of our participants would like to share any thoughts with our panelists, or if any queries that you'd like to share with our panelists today, please feel free to raise your hand or post your questions or comments in the text box or chat box, or feel free to speak up. So yeah, please, over to you.
Yes, Bishop Alexander. I serve as the Director of Alumni Relations at the University of North Alabama, and one of the things that we're really working on is the communication piece, because like all alumni relations professionals on here, we're just trying to figure out what's the best strategy to communicate to all of our demographics, because each demographic prefers a certain way. And so we're trying to, from social media to even sending out mailers, which as we all know, postage is going up. And so we're just trying to find, when someone mentioned cost effective, I was thinking that's actually our strategy. So we're just looking at new ways of, and even those who maybe are not accustomed to the new, modern things. We're trying to, because I learned even during COVID, one of Best Practice School actually hosted a virtual workshop for older alumni who maybe were not familiar with social media. And so that gave us an idea of saying, okay, if someone can't do it, or if they're maybe close to it, what are ways we can kind of maybe use on the other side, but also not grassroots. And so this is very helpful. But I kind of wanted to kind of share that that's what we're trying to focus on now, is just how can we communicate better when you're trying to communicate to the masses in a best way.
I think it's a great point and a great question. And of course, there's no one right answer. I would just say one of the things that we've learned is you really have to be using multiple communications channels, and you sort of win when you can subdivide it so you don't use everything for everybody. What I found, and Margie is an example of this, social media ambassadors, leveraging alumni to talk to their own age group, but also just to leverage your resources. Calling on volunteers, social media is actually more effective when you engage your alums to take it on themselves as well. So as long as you feed them the message, that can be really helpful, relieve some of the burden, and get a broader message out. Doesn't solve the who should we mail to, who shouldn't we, but it definitely can supplement some of your efforts, probably.
Yeah, if I may share my experience with IIT Madras, where we kind of said how we were going to communicate. So like we said, we use the email more for any events, registrations, or anything to be done, anything that's happening in the college or anything. So that we used the email. Social media, we more used to celebrate the alumni. Like we run campaigns on entrepreneurs of, IIT Madras, or celebrating the teachers. So there we found a lot of traction. They would like to see. And if somebody has moved jobs, if somebody is in a senior position, then we would, write to celebrate them. And every batch had its own WhatsApp group. So which means there was constant, and what we did there was there would be no forwards, no political, no religious, no controversial subjects. So like I was the admin in all the groups, and we would be very strong on and the conversations, initially, yes, there was a disturbance, but then that became one of the beautiful ways that created a lot of interest. And the other thing is Telegram also picked up. We had 42 special interest groups running on Telegram, and they were very active because Telegram allows for more people to come in, and they were more comfortable using Telegram for these special interest groups. So various things we used for various things, so they knew where to be, and that really helped. And communications really, so they don't feel tired about receiving the same thing in multiple things. It's not like we put the same message in the email, then in the social media, and then in the WhatsApp. So when they are in each of it, they know what to look for.
Right, right. Thank you for sharing that. I think Dr. Dobson would like to add a few points over here. Yes, Dr. Dobson.
Oh, thank you. And I know that. I think Shayan, you were first. Do you want to go?
No, please. I have a different question.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask Bishop then. Bishop, University of North Alabama. How many faculty and staff members graduated from the University of North Alabama? Did many? Some?
Well, actually, half of our we're right at 1,000 employees, and I would say out of the 1,000, probably close to 600 or 700 are alumni. And so
Our alumni.
That's a group that we're really trying to.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm thinking about your staff, I'm thinking about your faculty, I'm thinking about the people that have been part of the students' lives, and to engage them as those ambassadors and to kind of survey them and bring them into the fold. And the faculty can talk about their research, they can talk about their work, coaches can engage with alumni and to be able to say, I'm a proud graduate of UNA as well. And this is what's happening on campus. I invite you to come join me, and we're going to meet up here, or we're going to watch our newest faculty member is going to be joining the group, and please come along. So where your alumni may convene by their classes or by their interest, I think that's an opportunity to bring them into the communications as well. And that could be a quick YouTube message to them. Yeah. That could be through a personalized, comms piece, an email, anything like that. So, just one of those other tactics is that those, they're right there every day, and sometimes they don't think about that hat that they wear. Good luck.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations, Kathy. And thank you, everyone, for putting this together. I'm learning a lot. Maybe before I ask my question, can I share a little bit of my personal story in this realm? So I'm a graduate from Yale College, and during college, I really wasn't involved as a foreign student, scholarship student, pre-med, working hard, getting by. But it was in 2011 when I went on a Yale Alumni Service Corps trip with Kathy leading that trip to China, that really changed my life and started my work in the Yale alumni community, working in our local club. I met Margie early on in my work on the YA board, and I'm currently the board chair. So it's been a long journey. Without Kathy, there would have been none. I always tell the story about as a volunteer to Yale or to any of your institution, that it is not only an expression of our gratitude to our alma mater, but also it is an opportunity for personal growth. So while I have been volunteering for the last, decade or more, I've learned a lot of leadership skills, communication, speaking, writing, so that I've really grown professionally as a cardiologist. So I think that's another reason why we tell our volunteers to do this. My question is to all of you, when we bring these volunteers on board, right? We have kind of a seasonal turning over of them in all of our organizations. Do you have a curriculum to train them? Because I think this book that I have now can be used to do that, to train our most engaged or interested volunteers, because I feel Kathy put this work into a science that those of you who do this professionally probably do this and know this by heart. But for the rest of us, this is a great tool kit to learn. So I want to ask if other people have, before this book, how did you train your volunteers? Thank you.
Well, I'll just, before others answer, I will say, thank you, Cheyenne. We do go way back. This is actually something that's an issue across nonprofits. Some might even say it's an issue across corporate governance more broadly. And even for me personally, in nonprofits that I'm a part of, I think volunteer training and board training is something that we don't do enough of, right? And there are two sides to it. There's actually the community building side and the actual training. What does it mean to be a responsible board member? And what are your fiduciary responsibilities if you have them? And it is important for people to really understand the process of the organization that they are volunteering for. So I do hope that the book can serve in that way to help others have a more robust training. It would be interesting to hear what other schools do in that capacity. Ed, I take it you have a response to Cheyenne.
Right, I think we have Mr. Sevilla who would like to share his journey with us.
Sure,
So yes,
thank you.
Mr. Sevilla. Yeah.
Thank you. Some of you know I work in the field. My consulting firm that I work for helps college universities, U.S. and internationally, on advancement and engagement, and including alumni relations. So specifically to that question, Cheyenne, we often see just a lot of custom-made training by organizations, just sort of putting it together. So I would second that point around, and folks, I know Kathy, but I would second that point of this is a great toolkit, and encourage folks to think about it that way. I'd also just like to connect that point to Filippo's earlier point, and Filippo, so great to see you again as well. Just to say that as you all think about alumni relations, Filippo's point about the power of volunteers is critical when you think about scale. You think about the great question Gretchen asked, sort of how many alumni do you have and how do I match resources up to them? No organization is going to be able to staff up to be able to have the kind of interaction that you want to from a staff perspective. And so it's critical that you think about what is your volunteer strategy, what's your governance strategy, how do you want to organize your groups regionally, nationally, internationally, and then from there, how can you leverage your staff support investment to have the force multiplier? And it's a governance question, and it's a training question, and so I think these are completely appropriate and great questions and ideas that have been sparked right here. And that's what I think.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that. So I think with this, the moment has arrived when I think we shall hand over Connect, Engage, Thrive to all our participants and all our potential readers. So yeah, let's get started. So over to you, Katie, for sharing your closing remarks and how are you feeling.
Well, thank you. Thanks for hosting this, and thanks to so many of you for being part of the journey that I have taken, both as an alum, as a writer, and as somebody in the field of alumni relations. And I hope the book is helpful to you with your institutions and more broadly. And thank you for being here. It's all about the community.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to have your feedback soon with us about your reading of Connecting Age and Thrive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kathy.
Couple, please
Okay.
reach the
Thank
book.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
take care, all.
Thanks. Great meeting
Bye.
you all.